American Hypnosis Network.
Welcome back, my friends, to the American Hypnosis Wellness Institute with Peter Elson. I'm the main instructor for our courses. This time we are going to talk about secondary inductions. We referred to it in our last video blog about primary inductions. And to summarize what we said last week is that during our first session we do a primary induction, and we explained that in our previous vlog, where in the first session we need to bring the client to a certain state of hypnosis, place an anchor in their subconscious with a post-hypnotic suggestion, so that in the second session and successive sessions after the first session, the client will go back effortlessly, easily and rapidly into the state of hypnosis without having to do the whole elaborate overload of the first session. Remember, in the first session we have to create a sense of overload. We build up the mind, the client, the kind of an anxiety level in the client, and then we drop him back into in a hypnotic state. And we take generally more time for that during a normal session in the first session. But you don't need to be doing that every time. Once you have established the anchor and the post-hypnotic suggestion during your first session using your primary induction, you will then start your session, once you do the hypnosis, with what we call a secondary induction. Now, mind you, me personally, I never start hypnosis right away. I take great care when a client comes to me that I talk to them, particularly starting in the second session, because in my first session, and this is something that we will explain in detail during our certification program, we generally do not encourage the client to talk a lot, because we want to build up a sense of tension, a sense of anxiety, so that the mind goes more and more up into some sort of stress form, and then we drop them down, because the up and down is the contrast is what helps establish a certain depth. And but that also means that I have not had the opportunity really to talk to my client and really go in depth, asking them what is going on, why are you here, how can I help you, and so on and so forth. Now, if somebody come to you for smoking or a past life regression, these are pretty straightforward. It's pretty clear what they want, why they came. But very often the client has other issues, and even though they may say I have XYZ issue, very often they don't even know that there is something else behind it. And so we have to get to that. And somebody is obviously a conscious and a subconscious mind. And so we also like to work a little bit with the conscious mind, ask them questions, have a dialogue going, create a rapport. This rapport helps a lot by opening up the mind of the client to become more suggestible, so that it becomes easier to cross boundaries, overcome obstacles that are often of a subconscious nature. It's not necessarily an obstacle that they have with you or that they feel blocked with you. If that is the case, you better tell them to find somebody else. But obviously the client generally has an internal difficulty in something they cannot see. And so during that second session and so on, I generally start talking to my client a little bit, ask them what is going on, create a rapport, so that then the hypnosis will start to work much more easily. And we also know what it is that we're here for. And then we have to apply the right script, we have to apply the right technique for the particular issue involved. And so, as you have seen during my primary induction, the client generally sits in a chair opposite to me in my office. And I have shown you my real office setting so that you get a real idea. And that's the beauty of our training. It's very practical, so we show you the actual settings, how it's set up, how is the office set up, what do we need to do. We show you everything in our certification program. And so there's no questions left unasked. And so then generally during the second session they sit opposite to me in the office. We talk, create rapport, and find out more about the issues involved. And then I ask them to go back in the recliner. I don't do any induction then in the chair. I tell them go into the recliner and then I start immediately my secondary induction. Now, what is the difference between a secondary and a primary induction? Is that, like I said, we don't have to re-encourage, re-institute the post-hypnotic suggestion. You may, but it's not really required. Generally, if you do it right, you have repeated it several times during your first primary induction. Then, the moment you're going to say deep sleep, they will go back to that state you have achieved in the previous session. And so all we need to do is a secondary induction followed by deepeners. Now, what are some examples of secondary inductions? In our certification course, we have given you a whole list of deepeners. We have given you 5 different types of deepeners, and we have given you a quantity of secondary inductions. Now, they could be very simple. It could be as simple as holding up a pen above somebody's eyes and tell them, follow this pen, follow this pen, follow this pen. So we try to establish an eye movement, follow this pen, follow this pen, follow this pen, and as the pen goes down, the eyes get heavier, 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 and bang, deep sleep. Could be as simple as that, because you have already put in the mind the command deep sleep. And when you start to give some suggestions, deep sleep, the eyes heavier, they go into a state of hypnosis. What also is very popular is what we call a heavy light secondary induction, which is also, by the way, what I have defined as what we call a crossover induction. That is as well a primary and a secondary induction, more of that in our certification. But we ask the client, put one hand up, one hand down, imagine stones in this hand and a balloon on this hand. It's actually almost similar to our arm raising induction. And then you start telling them it gets heavier and heavier, this is lighter and lighter, and their eyes are closed and you will see this. And then when the arm is almost down, you gently touch it down and you say deep sleep, and somebody goes in the state of hypnosis. Very effective. I use it, as a matter of fact, quite often. Now, what I would like to do with you here now is give you yourself a practical demonstration of a very classic secondary induction, which is called a Betty Erickson induction. Betty Erickson was the wife of Milton Erickson, one of the famous fathers of modern hypnotherapy, and she has made a very beautiful, very effective form of secondary induction. And I want you for a moment to sit down and close your eyes. Okay, and I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, go ahead and close your eyes. Okay, now what I want you to do is take a few deep cleansing breaths. A few deep cleansing breaths, that's right. And I want you to now gently open your eyes. And I want you to pick a spot in front of you. Now, if you lay back on a bed or a recliner, I want you to pick a spot at the ceiling. If you are looking straight ahead, I want you to pick a spot straight ahead of you and just start to stare at that spot and don't lose focus. Let everything go and just see that spot as if there is nothing else. Now, what's interesting, when you look at that spot, I want you to start noticing, pick out one item in your peripheral vision. It could be a door, could be a window, but without losing focus of that one spot you're looking at. Look at that door or look at that window while you keep focusing on that one spot. Now I want you to very gently, while you never lose focus of this one spot, pick something else that you can notice in your peripheral vision. It could, for example, be a lamp, a shade, and look at that. Notice it while you keep your eyes focused on the spot in front of you, so in your peripheral vision. Now I want you to find a third item. It could be a chair, it could be a picture on the wall. Notice in your peripheral vision this image, this picture, its size. And now notice in your peripheral vision the size of the wall in front of you without losing sight of this one spot. Well, the mind gently goes within, deeper, more gentle, but yet you keep focus on that spot. Now I want you to hear, listen, and see if you can notice the humming of the lights near you. Gently focus while you keep looking at this one spot. Perhaps noticing traffic going by, cars or people walking by. Perhaps as you now start to notice, there could be another noise in your room, a refrigerator or music. Or you could even listen to the silence around you right now, while you still look at that spot, the mind going deeper and deeper within, a sense of drifting occurring. And while you keep looking at this one spot, I want you to feel your body sitting in the chair or laying down in the recliner. I want you to even notice your arms and legs and see, without an objection, without any conclusion, sense, are those arms and legs relaxed or stressed? I want you to even notice the state of your mind. What is it like right now? Wanting to go deeper down while you keep looking at this one spot, never losing sight. And lastly, I want you to notice your eyes getting heavier and heavier. The eyelids wanting to go down, closing, the eyes a little watery, starting to drift, defocusing now. The eyes heavier and heavier, the eyes closing now. I'm entering a deep, comfortable sleep. As I count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Deep sleep. You see, my friends, this is a Betty Erickson induction. What did I just do? I ask you to focus on one spot, and then I go to 4 visual items in your peripheral vision. Peripheral vision means you look at one spot and you become aware of other things around you, but your eyes are not focused on that. Your eyes is focused on this one spot. So we start to kind of defocus in the background. And I'm picking 4 different things. Now here I don't know what you're looking at, so I'm just guessing. I just give you an idea. But when you're in an office with a client, what you do is you actually pick things that they can see in front of them or around them. And then I do 4 auditory issues, auditory things, like whatever is happening around you at that time, I can pick out. There could be some cars in the background, there could be the humming of the tube lights, there could be even their own breathing, whatever, 4 auditory things. And then finally 4 kinesthetic feelings. So we're going to auditory, visual to auditory to kinesthetic. Remember, not everybody is either just visual, some are auditory, some are kinesthetic. So we are using actually these different tendencies that somebody is going to really relate to. And then finally, kinesthetic means within themselves. So start becoming aware of your body and letting it go and just kind of seeing what's going on. Now I'm just making a quick one here, because what happens after this first round, you actually go back after the 4 kinesthetic, you go back to the visual, but instead of 4 you do 3. And then 3 auditory, 3 kinesthetic, then go back 2 visual, 2 auditory, 2 kinesthetic, then 1, and then bam, deep sleep. Now somebody they will go completely out. I have generally found that you don't even need to go all these rounds. Generally, if you end up with the first round, they are already going down in a beautiful hypnotic state. It is actually a very comfortable form of secondary induction, and I use it very often. I even have created some variants on this Betty Erickson induction where I actually start using already the issue of the client involved. And that is actually something I've developed myself. I've never seen it anywhere else. If you want to know how I do that, enroll in our certification course, and I give you there practical demos with actual clients of how this is used. It's something that I use very often. It's very, very powerful, and secondary inductions therefore are extremely important, right? Because let's hope and assume you're going to meet a client more than once. So what am I going to do with a client when they come back to me second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time? Do I use the same secondary induction or do I use variants? And what I do is I use very often a form of Betty Erickson induction, but I change it around and use there the issue already involved that the client is coming to me for, and I found that to be very effective. So kind of a mind thing that I'm doing and helping the people to understand right then and there what is going on in their mind. Okay? It would be too long and too detailed to explain right now, and we encourage you therefore to come join our enormous community of hypnotherapists and learn these phenomenal techniques, because these are also good for ourselves. For example, staring at a spot, for example, is also a great technique for young people when they want to learn to concentrate. For example, let's say you're sitting in a lecture in a college or in a classroom and you start to get tired and you have difficulty absorbing the material. So what you need to do is you need to pick a spot just behind the head of the lecturer, and while you look at that spot you kind of let go, and the teacher and his words or her words start to fade in the background, but the subconscious mind at that moment is able to absorb all the information. You start to go in a alpha state, and in that alpha state you're hyper-suggestible, and while the mind kind of starts to drift off and you focus at that spot, while at the same time you let go, the information will come to you and really absorb and gets integrated into subconscious mind. And this is a fantastic way of absorbing information. And it's also a fantastic way, therefore, that when you are with a client and you have them look at that spot, you can already start to give suggestions. You can already start to, for example, I give you a quick idea. When I look at that spot, when I ask my client, look at that spot, I say that spot is the issue you're working with. Imagine that is the spot. Whereas the ceiling is the world you live in. And the ceiling, that spot, could also be the solution where you need to go while you let go of the ceiling, which is all the rest. So just start to detach, focusing on what's important. Something that we have talked about during our session. What could be a solution? What could be a way forward? Look at that, and the rest you drop it. Now these are some very powerful techniques, because the mind goes in an alpha state, in a suggestible state, and starts to quickly absorb. You don't have to do lengthy inductions all the time. At that moment you could already achieve a tremendous form of therapeutic benefit just while you do the secondary induction. Right then, of course, we do deepeners, and later on we can start giving either a script or what I generally like to use, therapeutic imagery, which again we have given 2 courses within our main certification course about therapeutic imagery, which is absolutely important, a very powerful therapeutic tool. So those are all things that you can learn of how to help people. Well, thank you, my friends. This is our video blog about secondary inductions, and we will see you soon.